Good evening, Gills fans. Welcome back to the latest episode of Gills in the Blood TV. It's Thursday evening, which means it's match preview show, and I'm lucky to say that I'm joined by a familiar face. If you watch the channel regularly, it is Barry Worthington, who runs the Progress with Unity Wigan Athletic podcast. I will put his details and the details for the pod in the description at the bottom of the video once you've watched this all the way through, of course. Baz, you good?
Yeah, very good, thank you.
Good. Yeah,
Yourself?
nice win in the week. Well, yeah, football aside, I'm all right.
Yeah, great win at Morecambe. I thought it was going to be a tricky place to go, and it was proved right. But we came away with the 3 points, which at this stage of the season, it's the results that matter.
Yeah, sign of a good side as well if you're winning and you're up against it and perhaps not at your best. And you've added a couple of players in the transfer window already, which I'm sure we'll get onto a little bit later. But that brings us nicely onto the current form. Gills fans, you might want to mute it. I'm sure the Latics fans will be listening intently. Wigan over the last 6. There's a single draw and there's 5 wins. So it's 16 points from the last 18 available for Liam Richardson's men. The Gills have taken 1 solitary point from the last half dozen games. That was that creditable draw on New Year's Day at MK Dons, which was apparently us turning a corner. We've then proceeded to score once and concede 7 in the next 2 games. Home and away form. Wigan, not as good as overall, but still solid enough. There's 2 wins, a draw, and 3 defeats in the last 6. But such is the nature of having all the postponements up there that last 6 at home goes all the way back to September, Barry, and you are actually unbeaten in the last 3. So it's little crumbs of comfort for Gills fans. But if you sort of break it down a little bit further, not so much, unfortunately. And the Gills on the road, 3 draws and 3 defeats from their last 6 away from Kent. So it's 3 points from 18, so still no wins. And that is why we are currently entrenched in the bottom 4, some 8 points adrift. As you've already mentioned, Barry, narrow midweek win at Morecambe, a Morecambe side that likes to score goals, but unfortunately for their fans, likes to concede them as well. So what did you make of the performance?
Yeah, I thought, to be honest, Morecambe they looked anything but a bottom 4 side. They were good in midfield and they set about us. At the first 20 minutes, we was under the cosh a little bit, and they scored a dreadful mistake from us at the back, and we let them get the cross in, and then we'll deal with it when it came in, and Kel Watts, our centre half, just seemed to pass it to Col Stockton, who sent it into the back of the net from 6 yards out. But it was a little bit of a wake up call that we needed, and then we got back into the game. Max Power was really good on the night, driving us through midfield. Jack Watmore at the back as well. He played very well. And then we scored right on half time. 45 plus 1 is when we scored. Will Keane, a typical Will Keane goal, knocked into him, controlled it, turned up in the back of the net. Second half, a bit of a different game, really. We was more up for it. The performance, very typical of us away this season, where I think we've won. I think that was our 10th victory on the road this season. We've drawn 1 and lost. We lost the first game at Sunderland. Since then, we're undefeated on the road. So fantastic away from home, and that's a bit of a comfort, a crumb of comfort for Gillingham, that our own form isn't anything like our away form. But having said that, the defeats that we've suffered at the DW Stadium have been on a Tuesday evening. And I understand you don't like playing on a Saturday. So
we don't win on a Saturday. We've won once on a Saturday all season, ironically, against Morecambe. So yeah. Well, we don't win full stop, unfortunately. That's why we're 23rd out of 24 at the moment. 3 wins from 25 games paints its own picture, unfortunately, regardless of injuries and that type of thing. But it puts you a point off top now with 4 games in hand. So sitting pretty. I know there's the old question that always gets asked, do you rather have points on the board or games in hand? But I think when you're just 1 point off the summit with 4 games in hand, you've got to be fancying your chances to even if you win 2 and lose 2, you're going to be 5 points clear, which will put you in a really strong position approaching the last 3 months of the season. Gills, again, it's real crumbs of comfort and desperately seeking a silver lining, unfortunately. And 2 of them 3 draws on the road from the last 6 have been in the northwest of England. Bolton, 2-2 draw when we threw away a 2-0 lead with 5 minutes to play. And the last away day I did, which was in the beginning of November, that was that 1-1 draw at Hillsborough, which was a really good point before all the injuries set in. But yeah, I've written down no win in the league since October, so that's why we are where we are. Large squad I've written down. Wigan, we had a chat beginning of the season, I think, and I got in trouble with some Wigan fans at the start of the summer when I said that they were spending big, but I didn't mean in terms of fees. You've been very good with your recruitment. Obviously, you're paying decent wages, and good luck to you, like I said before on the preview for the reverse fixture, because you've been through the ringer the last few years. And if there's any club that does deserve success, I'd like to think it's Wigan. Obviously, I hope you have an absolute stinker on Saturday afternoon for 2 hours, but I'm not sure I can really see it. And you've added Josh McGuinness and Graham Shinney this week, so 2 more bits of championship quality effectively that have come in. McGuinness, I was a little bit surprised because I think he'd been like their first choice centre forward for pretty much most of the season. But incidentally, Tom Eaves, our former striker, then started against Blackburn Wednesday night and scored. So it was good to see Tom score. And Graham Shinney, I think you've got a bit of a cut price, haven't you, because of the situation at Derby? But that's a really good addition, surely.
Yeah, to Graham Shinney. When we was in the Championship, we were interested in signing him from Aberdeen. But Derby beat us to his signature. I think he decided to go there rather than come to us. So it was a player that we were aware of. He scored his first goal for Derby County against Wigan Athletic, and it was a 92nd minute winner. so he didn't really endear himself to the Athletic supporters, but he's the current player of the season, 100%er. He plays in midfield. We've had a problem with Jordan Cousins, who was superb for us early season. He's been ruled out for the rest of the season now. He's picked up some sort of injury. I think it's a really bad hamstring injury. They're not disclosing what it is, but I think that's what it is. And so we've had Max Power playing back in midfield after he played at full back where he started the season for us. So I think Shin has just
scored the winner, didn't he? I think, or the clincher at our place, playing from right back. I'm sure he did.
Yeah, the first goal he scored. Yeah, that game. So I think Shinney's been brought in just because, like you've alluded to, we've got all these games in hand, and we're still involved in the Pizza Trophy and the FA Cup. Well, we've got an attractive game in that away at Stoke, and who are not in the best of form. So there's a chance we could end up going through in that. So there's going to be a lot of games coming up, and we need that to be able to rotate. We need that strength in depth if we're seriously going to push, because even though we've got the games in hand, it's still very tight up at the top, and as it is down at the bottom. You know, apart from, I think just yourselves and Doncaster are a little bit adrift, aren't you? But the rest of the teams,
a little bit, yeah.
Yeah, are very close together. Which it's League One all over, isn't it? I mean, and you always get some team putting a run together. I mean, last season we did it. Us and Burton did it from this time last year.
We need a Burton style thing. I think we need something like that. But you know, we've got slightly. Well, no, it's about the same games, I think, isn't it? It was around this time that Jimmy Floyd Hasselbank took over, but.
Yeah, it was January, because we beat them the last day of December. The last game of December, not the last day of December, but the last game.
And do you know where their first game was when Hasselbank took over?
He was sat in the stands for us on the 29th.
Yeah, and then they won at the Priestfield in January. That was their first game.
Right. There we go. Well, there's always a connection, isn't there, Matt? There's always a connection. It
always intertwines, doesn't it? And just in case Gills fans, you're not sure of what Barry was trying to say there, I'll put it in layman's terms. He said they've got a big squad, they can rotate, they've got loads of options. They've had a cup run, that means they've won a few games in knockout competitions, whereas we haven't. You have to laugh, don't you? Unfortunately, it's horrible. And we spoke last night when we was recording for your podcast, and it all goes round in cycles, and we're just having one of them seasons at the moment, unfortunately. But yeah, it's going to be tough. But I want to speak to you before we get on the team news, potential 11s, predicted scores and stuff like that, Barry. I want to talk to you about Liam Richardson again, because we spoke before the reverse fixture in Kent back in September, October time. And I said I thought he was doing a really good job there last season in keeping you away from relegation. And obviously had a bit of a free swing, because if he'd gone down, people would have understood. Pretty much in a similar situation to whoever the incoming Gills manager will be now. But we said it'd be interesting to see how he reacts to a different kind of pressure, you know, being able to bring in big players like Charlie Wyke at the time, Jack Watmore, Tom Naylor, like we said, McGuinness, Shinney in this window, plus plenty of others. Max Powers, another one you've mentioned, Ben Amos, the list goes on. How is he doing, and what is the general consensus among the fan base at the job that Liam Richardson's doing? I'm sure I know the answer, but I just wanted to get a more in-depth sort of idea.
Well, first things first, this is how he's revered. We've actually named the South Stand the Liam Richardson Stand officially. So he's had a stand named after him. But that's come about also not because he's just been so good as a manager, but also, as a lot of people be aware, there was an incident with Charlie Wyke where he had a heart attack during training, and Liam Richardson was the first person to respond and carried out CPR on him. So in recognition of that, and also what he's done for the club, they decided to name the South Stand the Liam Richardson Stand.
Fair enough. Very nice touch, that, definitely.
Yeah, absolutely. What's he like this season is exactly the same as it was last season. Last season, even though we had all the pressures, he stood at the front, and I only saw him once get despondent, and that was after we'd lost 5-0 at home to Hull, and he come out with a statement about how any manager would cope with the situation, that we're in at the moment, and he was decrying what was happening to the club. That's the only time he ever cracked last season. This season has been exactly the same. He's dignified in victory. He always praises the opposition. He never berates the officials, even though you know what they're like in League One. There's some shockers knocking about. He holds his head up. He deals with the players very well. They all seem to love him. We've interviewed Jack Watmore. We've interviewed Joe Bennett, Callum Lang on the podcast. They all speak very highly of Richardson. I went to a fans forum a couple of months ago, and it was Richardson and his two assistants, James Beattie and Rob Kelly, were there. And Beattie and Kelly were just singing his praises. A brilliant manager. I think the people are seeming to think now that maybe he was the brains behind Paul Cook, and that's why.
I've seen that mentioned a few times now, that Cookie struggled obviously without Liam Richard next to him, and it makes sense. We're not saying that Paul Cook won't come again, not for one instance, but it does sort of add fuel to that fire, so to speak.
Yeah, well, he was destined to leave in summer and go down to Ipswich, but he was persuaded to stay and take the helm himself. They sat down with him and said, the new board said they'd back him with what he wanted and bring in the type of player that he wanted, bring in the staff behind the scenes that he wanted. And he agreed to do it, and he's just gone from strength to strength. It's fantastic, very level-headed, connects so well with the supporters. Opposition as well. Every game we play, he goes round shaking the hand of the opposition players after the game, win, lose or draw. It doesn't matter. He does it. He's a gentleman. He speaks well. He knows football inside out. I just feel blessed to have him, to be honest with you. Fantastic. Really pleased.
No, good. It's good to hear. Obviously, like I said, there's Wigan's a club that I think a lot of fans of other clubs want to do well, aside from when they play their own team. And like I say, after Saturday, good luck to you. I hope you do get promoted as well. That brings us on to team news. We was meant to be recording on Wednesday night, but we had technical issues. But luckily, that means the Gills press conference was at least done today, Thursday. So I've got a bit more idea of terms of injuries, and luckily that they weren't as bad as first feared. So I think aside from a Gills point of view, aside from Alex McDonald, who's out for the rest of the season, and Daniel Adseed, who's back at Norwich getting treatment for a broken foot, Gills have got everyone available for the weekend. Stuart O'Keefe and Robbie McKenzie, who both came off last weekend against Burton, have trained and are absolutely fine. So it's a tricky one from my point of view. Do we stick with the same team that was very decent for an hour against Burton and led and ultimately came up short, or do we make a couple of changes and try and freshen it up? Daniel Phillips is a player that I like. Couple of silly red cards this season, but he's a youngster. He's on loan from a Premier League team, but he certainly gets about the park, and he's not afraid to put his foot in and do the dirty work. So he might be one that I'd be inclined to come in. I think we'll have to stick with the same back four and a keeper. So my team for Gills would be Pontus Dahlberg in goal, back four Ryan Jackson, Max Amar, Jack Tucker and Robbie McKenzie. I'd go with Phillips or O'Keefe at the base of the diamond. I'd like to get Ollie Lee further forward and play him in the 10. Carl Dempsey and Ben Reeves from the side. But Dane Oliver has to start, because we have to score goals to give ourselves a chance at all of getting anything in this game and in terms of the rest of the season. I'll be inclined to change it. I dropped Charlie Kelman out. He came back and made his second debut of the season. There's not many clubs, I don't think, that have had a player that's worn two different numbers in the same season. But a quiz question perhaps for future years. But I'd drop him out and I'd play Tom Dixon-Peters. I thought he was bright in the second half when he came on against Ipswich, albeit an Ipswich side that were out of sight and playing in second gear. So my bench would be Aaron Chapman, Reece Bennett, Stuart O'Keefe or Daniel Phillips, Danny Lloyd, Mustafa Carriel, Charlie Kelman and John Akindi. What's coming out of Wigan in terms of injury problems? I hope there's loads. Please tell me there's loads. And what your team would be for Saturday.
Yeah, well, Charlie White's out, obviously.
Of course,
Jordan
Cousins.
Cousins.
And we wish him all the best still in his ongoing recovery, definitely.
Yeah, Jordan Cousins, who I mentioned, he's out for the season. Josh McGuinness, as we're signing with a slight hamstring injury, so whether he'll be on the bench or not, I don't know. He's not featured at all in the last 2 games. So that's about it, really. Oh, and Curtis Tilt, who, again, could be a record maker here, because the last three windows, we've signed him in each of the last 3 windows on loan from Rotherham. So he's just gone back. He's been recalled by Rotherham, but we want to make his signing permanent. So they're negotiating. So he could be the first player to sign for the same club during on 4 consecutive windows.
So we're not just a preview here, Gills fans and Wigan fans, but we've got quiz questions going on. We've got, what players worn the different shirt number for one club twice in a season. We've got what players been signed by the same club 4 consecutive winter. We do it all. So,
yes,
so what's your 11 then, Baz?
Right. Well, even if we do sign him back, I believe he's not trained this week at all up at Rotherham, so I don't think he'll be in. Liam Richardson doesn't like changing his team. He likes to stick with the same team, but I do think we might rotate slightly for this game. So I'm going with the same team that started the Morecambe game, but one change, and it'll give us a slight tactical change as well. That so we'll probably have Pearce, Watmore, Watts and Dariqua as the back 4, Amos in goals. 2 sitting midfielders in Power and Naylor, who both have freedom to move forward. James McLean over on the left. We had Gavin Massey start on Tuesday up at Morecambe. I think what's going to happen here, I think Callum Lang will move over to the right. Will Keane will drop to the number 10. And Stevie Humphries will probably get his first start of the season in a league game for us, because he's not started yet. He's been
didn't he score off the bench in the week?
Yeah, but when he came on, Matt, he was so fired up. It's the best I've seen him play.
I saw a few tweets. So probably you and the pod had probably retweeted him saying hopefully it's the kickstart of his career at Wigan.
And he was voted. He was voted the man of the match as well. I mean, he made a massive impact when he came on about 65 minutes. He scored the winning goal, but he just put himself about. So, and Keano is a better number 10 than what he is a centre forward. So I think we've been looking. That's why we signed McGuinness to play the white role, so Keane can drop back into the hole. And I think that's how we might start.
Fair enough. Right, the big question before I let you go, the dreaded score prediction. I try to be positive. I've said I think we score, because you've not kept many clean sheets in the league, but such is the firepower, it's not too much of an issue for Wigan Athletic. So I'll back us to get 1. I've got Ollie Lee as our goal scorer, but I think unfortunately Wigan will be too strong for us. So I've got 2-1 or 3-1 to the Latics.
Right, yeah. Well, we've scored in every single league game this season. We're the only club in England to do that. And in fact, there's only us. I think it's, is it Bayern Munich? Are the only 2 teams in Europe who've scored in every league game. So, like you said, we have got some firepower. And I know it was back in October the last time we kept a clean sheet, but I've got a feeling we're going to do it this week. I think we will keep a clean sheet. And I've gone for the old 3-0 with Humphries, Keane and Lang to score. I'm sorry.
Don't have to apologise, mate. Not at all. It's fine. It is what it is, isn't it? We are where we are for a reason, unfortunately, or fortunately in your case. Baz, as always, it's been a real pleasure, mate. Thank you very much.
No problem. Loved it. Thanks, Matt. And I hope you do stay up. And, and if we're in different divisions next year, because we get promoted and you stay up, maybe we'll meet in a cup now and we can have a chat then.
Fingers crossed. Gills fans, you know where we are. Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and of course YouTube. Like I said, I'll put the details for Barry and also their podcast in the description at the bottom of the video. Get commenting down below. Let us know what you think the Gills team should be. If you're a Wigan fan, what you think Liam Richardson's team will line up like. Your score predictions. Please don't be too harsh though, Wigan fans, if you're putting your score predictions in the comments down below. It is nearly the weekend and we like to be nice to each other and be kind. Please keep subscribing to the channel. We are approaching 1,800 subscribers now. I will not be travelling up north on Saturday, unfortunately, to watch the game. I'll be back Monday, though, to review what has happened during those 90 minutes. Hopefully, there's something positive to talk about. But until then, enjoy your weekend and up the Gills.